All right, thank you guys. Welcome to Trial and Error, a Postmortem about Company of Tanks. This is a game that has been in development for the past 6 years. We released it on 6 months, sorry. We released it on the Google Play Store 1.5 months ago. It's still very much a work in progress kind of thing. We're still making tweaks, using analytics to see what our users are doing and how we can improve the game from here. So yeah, I'm Tim SPANINKS, producer and lead designer for Critical Force Entertainment. Critical Force Entertainment is a small independent studio in northern Finland, in Kajaani. We have around 17 people in the studio right now, including some marketing interns and people helping us out with the game in general. So the game is Company of Tanks. The game is a 3D online multiplayer first-person / third-person shooter, which already sounds really ambitious. But if you take into account that we've been developing it for only 6 months, and on top of that with a team of only 6 people, 6 young talented people from the University of Applied Sciences in Kajaani, it's been a hell of an achievement. It's been a hell of a ride so far, and I'm super proud of the team that we managed to achieve what we have achieved so far. So it's been a process where we all had to learn a lot. We've been working with Photon and Unity and with NGUI for the first time, so there were a lot of mistakes involved in the process as well. But luckily, mistakes are the portals of discovery. Mistakes are the way you learn. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about our development. I'm going to highlight some positive and negative points, so hopefully you can learn with us. So it's impossible to mention an online tank game without mentioning World of Tanks. So initially, when I was flown into Finland to work on this project, World of Tanks has recently become very popular and has managed to capture the attention of many users on the PC and on the console market. So naturally, following that success, because there was an empty space, there was a void on the mobile market for games like this, and there were many people looking for similar games. Many similar games to World of Tanks started appearing on the Google Play Store. So at first, the idea was, when I was brought into the project, to make a game similar to World of Tanks to profit from the attention that the genre was getting, but outmatching the competition, because there were a lot of games with poor graphical quality that didn't feel right, they didn't play right. So the first idea was to make a similar game, but just make it better. When I got in there were already 3 programmers, students from the local University of Applied Science. They were working on the game. Yeah, they managed to get a prototype up and running, and when I joined in, we got another artist from the university involved, but I felt like we needed a change of direction really fast, because what I feel is every game should have its own identity and bring a new experience to the player. As you see here, some examples from Flappy Bird. Like, it's been popular for just a very short period of time. Already there's dozens of similar games out there. And that's something I didn't want to work on. I didn't want to make the next World of Tanks clone on mobile. I felt like the game should bring its own new experience to the users. First of all, we started off with a bit. This is an earlier screenshot of the game, one of our prototypes. We went for a more slow-paced, similar to World of Tanks simulator kind of game. But we felt like it didn't match with the target audience and the platform. Because that's what most of the other guys don't realize that are making tank games, is that there's a completely different audience on mobile devices than there is on PC and console. And the target devices itself lend itself to a completely different gameplay. So what we did is we decided we would make it a lot more accessible. We wouldn't make a tank simulator game. We'd make an arcadey, fun, really fast, lot of action, simple shooter game featuring tanks. So we decided to adjust the visual style accordingly. We've been trying to find the right style for it, so we came up with this cel-shaded, arcadey kind of look that would communicate to our players that it's not a tank simulator game, it's not slow-paced, it's sure as hell not a World of Tanks clone. One of the main challenges for me in this project was that we were with such a small team. And usually the designer is the guy that says yes to design changes, he says yes to suggestions for the game, and the producer says no because there's not enough time, there's not enough budget, you just don't have the resources to put it in the game. Now, because we were with such a small team, I had to take the responsibility of both producer and designer in the team. So there were 2 voices in my head constantly, one screaming yes, the other one screaming no. The designer in me wanted to implement these awesome features for the game. As the producer said, there's simply no time to make it work in half a year. So we had a lot of features that we have scrapped or put in the icebox just for now. like an in-game chat, friends list, clan support, high scores, player profiles and stats, and extensive customization for your tank. They simply had to be cut because we had half a year of time. So we were going for the absolute minimum viable product, which means that we were aiming for a release on the Google Play Store to collect all the data we needed from the players to make it better. So we researched what was the minimal stuff that we need to have in the game. So the extra cool stuff like clan support, inviting your friends to play with, that's something we're working on really hard right now. But because we already have a product out there now, we can talk to publishers, we can talk to other companies to make deals, we can talk to investors. So we've managed to get an important part of the audience on the Google Play Store as well. So we're in a much better position now to negotiate. One of the lessons I learned during this project as well was adjust your management to your team and not the team to your management. Because I've worked for a bit larger studio as well, Isotex in Utrecht, we were at around 40 people. So that means there's already a very rigid management structure in place when you enter the company. So team members might have their own preferences, but as soon as you get into the company, you learn about their scrum methods. They have daily stand-ups, they have specific times when everything's planned, they're working with specific software, and you have to adjust to that to join the team and not the other way around. But if you're working with a smaller indie team, everything can be more flexible. You have a lot of privileges in that sense that bigger companies do not have. At first we were using Pivotal Tracker, which is a really neat piece of software you can use to organize your planning, make tasks, and keep track of what everyone's doing. But we found out very early on in the project, because we're all working in the same room, everyone was continually aware of what the other people were doing. We already knew what kind of tasks there were. We already knew what kind of priorities we had. So it felt very cumbersome to have to log into Pivotal Tracker, then update your tasks, and we already knew what everyone was doing. And it was just taking more time to get everything sorted out there. So for that moment, we felt it was better to ditch Pivotal Tracker, just have daily stand-ups, and everyone just, because we were testing the game together continuously, everyone knew what had to be done. So instead, we just dropped it for a while because it was costing us a lot of time. And we went back to basic, just making very short priority lists where we would list what everyone had to do. And just like draw it on a whiteboard, make sure everyone knows what it is, and just like stripe one off at the time. Yeah, after that, we had some very good opportunities to get feedback to the game. There's a lot of developers out there that are really scared to show early prototypes to people because they feel they'll get negative feedback for it, or this is not what I envision for the game, therefore I shouldn't show it to people yet. But it's been very valuable for us to show the game to people early on, to be able to improve the game and notice some mistakes with it that we hadn't seen ourselves initially. The Northern Game Summit was held in Kajani, which was a massive boost for us because we were working right there in the town, so it was very convenient for us to go over there. We entered in a pitching competition, got some incredible feedback from people. We won the pitching competition with a €5,000 prize to help us develop the game further, and managed to show the game to a lot of developers, a lot of gamers, a lot of business people as well, which gave us a lot of valuable feedback to continue development from that point on. This was one of my favorite moments in the development of the game, and maybe of my career in total. This was one of the first moments at the Digi-Expo in Helsinki when we got to show our prototype to general public, not just developers, not business people, but actual gamers, actual people who are passionate about games, who come to these kind of gaming events. At this one moment, this like 10-year-old kid came over to our booth, picked up the tablet, started playing, and he got so immersed in the game, he immediately knew how to play. He was kicking ass. At some point, he turned over to his friend, said with a grin, "Hyvä peli" in Finnish, which means good game. And yeah, that was brilliant for me to see that there was actually someone that really loved our game. Because that's one lesson, one of the biggest lessons I can take away from this project, is never forget what you're doing it all for, what makes it all worth it. Basically, enjoy the little things. You know, as a game designer, you might get involved in a lot of stressful deadlines. You're working on like tweaking this little game mechanic in your game, dealing with publishers, dealing with money issues. But eventually, at the end of the day, you just want people to really enjoy your game, and you lose focus of that if you're too focused on your deadlines and your actual work. So one of the important things is don't be afraid to show your game. Show your game to gamers that might really like it, because that makes it so much more tangible for you, what you're all doing it for. It just gives a massive motivational boost, makes your work a lot more fun if you realize that there's someone out there, some kid really geeking because he really, really thinks your game is awesome. From that point on, after we got some feedback on the game, we soft launched on Congregate because we were aiming for the mobile platform, but Unity allows it really easily to make a web build for your game as well. So we figured it would be a good way to build an audience before we launch, because if you launch a mobile multiplayer game, you need to get a certain critical mass of users to get your matchmaking to work, to get people when they log in to find someone else and play with them. So we figured it would be a good idea to soft launch on the web to get some people interested, collect a mailing list, get people ready for the actual release on mobile. One of the things that happened here was we had a matchmaking system. When people were getting into the game, pressing play, you got into a lobby waiting for enough people to connect, and then the game would start. So only when you have enough people, the game would start. So what happened here was that when someone joined the game, because we didn't start with a fan base, like no one knew about it so far. So we started off with a few players logging on, getting into the lobby, seeing there's no one online, and leaving right away. So that was a massive problem for us, because we had enough players every day to play with each other, but they just kept missing each other because of the matchmaking system. Now, what we were hoping for, and this is probably the biggest mistake we made during the development of this game, was that we figured if we'd launched an Android, there's so big of an interest in tank games, we'd reach our critical mass and people would be able to play, so the problem would resolve itself. But when we launched on Android, the first day we realized that exactly the same thing was happening, and we didn't take action before in our soft launch. So people got online, they saw 1 or 2 people are online, I can't play the game. So the way we tackled this, we released a patch right away after our first launch day, which basically was a drop-in, drop-out system. So instead of getting into a lobby first, you were thrown into the game right away. People can leave whenever they want, people can join the game whenever they want. As soon as you press play, it just finds the game in progress and throws you in there. That really helped us out, because that way people would get a bit immersed in the game. Because mobile players are really impatient, they leave quite quickly. So you have to entertain them, make sure they have something to do. They don't just want to wait around for someone to connect with. Because this is the system they use in World of Tanks. You just wait for enough people to connect, and then you get thrown into the game. But PC gamers are a lot more patient than mobile gamers, and you can't treat them the same way. One of the monetization mistakes we made in the project, we're still using Vungle for our video ads. We have a premium currency in the game. People can earn it by voluntarily watching video ads. So they can just press the button, earn free diamonds in our game, watch a video ad. Now, what we didn't realize was exactly how Vungle calculates the money that you earn from your players, because Vungle is a little bit untransparent in that. So the way it works, you get money for meaningful actions in the game, or in the ad, so people who click on it, people who install it, and not just exposure, not just people watching the ad. And the way in our game, the way it works is we have a relatively small percentage of our users watching the ads, but they are watching a lot of ads. The way that works with Vungle is that we're not getting any money, because those are the kind of users that are watching a lot of ads, so you get a lot of exposure, but not a lot of clicks. So if you're working with an ad provider, one of the things I can tell you is you have to know exactly how you're making your money with it, and make sure it matches with the type of users you have. So what we're probably going to do is either we're going to change it to an offer wall, or we're going to find a different way where we can at least validate whether a player installs something or whether a player undertakes a meaningful action. But we're going to try to find a way that doesn't take our player out of the game, because we don't want to break the whole suspense of the player with it. So where are we now? Yeah, the product has been out for about 1.5 months. And we've had 250,000 downloads so far, which is amazing for us with such a small young development team. We're focused now on fixing our current build and adding a lot of features as well, because we have no social network integration yet, no friend list, no chat, so that's something we're working on now to increase our user retention. And then we're going to get ready for a release on Windows Phone and possibly iOS later. But so far, I'm really impressed by what we managed to do here with such a young team. I'm super proud of them. I wish they could be here, but they're still in Finland working on the game right now. Yeah, so that's all for me right now. Thank you for your attention.
Questions?
Hey. You said that you were working in a bigger company and then you moved to the smaller company.
Yeah, that's right.
How and why did you make that decision?
Well, it was actually an internship before. I worked for a company here, Isotex in the Netherlands, and I was working as a level designer. Because before, level design is my route. I just got into game production quite recently. Like I've been doing level design for around 8 years already. I started as a hobby and then started doing some freelance projects and stuff like that. But I've always been interested in how the dynamics in a team actually work. I've been doing some design work, some UI design. I've been going to art school where we've been thought about a lot of different disciplines. So to bring that all together in a team, that was a great challenge for me. So when I got the opportunity, because I've already done freelance work for this company in Finland before, for Critical Force Entertainment, and I already knew the CEO. So when he was looking for someone to lead their next title, I was one of the first people that he thought of, and I was honored to get the opportunity. So it was a new challenge for me to move to a different country, and yeah, to pick something up that I was really interested in learning. So mainly adventure. It was trying something new that drove me to undertake this venture.
Hello? Morgan? Guys from Bold of Tanks Blitz asked me to come here and say hello. So hello from Wargaming.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And thank you for sharing this information, that's interesting. I got a question about controls.
Right.
We all know that making controls for mobile shooter or the game like shooting stuff on mobile is difficult. Could you share some information or thoughts on how to make nice controls for the tank game on mobile? Maybe you do some focus testing, usability study and stuff.
Yeah, well, I can give you one tip in that regard, and that's something we're using for our previous title, Critical Strike Portable as well, is to make the controls as adjustable as possible. Some people like the dynamic pads that like snap to the position where you put your thumb. Some like them to be in a fixed position, so you should always give the player the option to decide how they want to play with it. So like all of our controls are completely adjustable. You can drag them to any position on the screen, you can scale them very easily, you can save your settings. So if you're a left-handed player, you can just like drag all the things you want to the left and move the other ones to the right, so you can swap your controls really easily. So yeah, one of the things to take away is make it as flexible as possible. Don't put anything in a fixed position. Make sure you can move everything around. Gamepad control is something we already have for Critical Strike Portable. Right now, because we were going for the minimum viable product with this, because we had such limited development time, it's not something we have in this game now. But after the tweaks and the improvements in user retention, that's like one of the important things as well that we're looking to improve.
More questions?
Hello. My question is a bit beside the point of gaming. Before I say, I like the speak very much. You seem very focused, so I wish you the best, and I think you'll do very good.
Thank you.
But you've provoked me. Coming to a conference during the Winter Olympics is very painful. Do you have a Finland hockey shirt? Can you update us on that?
Yeah, I felt, because I've been living in Finland for a while now, and I got really immersed in the culture, and the people have been so friendly to me there. I figured it would be a good way to like stand out a bit more and to represent the culture there that I like so much. Also, I've been watching the match today as well between Austria and Finland, so hyvä Suomi.
Good luck.
More questions? No one? Okay, then I have a question. There is a lot of tank games are coming on mobile devices. Like I hope the World of Tanks will be soon, someday. Also, I know that Game Insight, big Russian publisher, is making also their tank games, and probably Alternativa platform with their Tanki Online is going also on mobile. Do you afraid that your game just will be lost between these tank games?
Not really. There's like a lot of upcoming competitors, but there's one thing that we're doing very different, and that's we're adapting the gameplay to the platform a lot more. we decided not to go for a realistic tank game, not for a tank simulation game, but for a way more arcadey experience. So it's a lot more a mix between that and a shooter game. It's a lot faster and a lot more action, and the style is completely different. So yeah, we actually have a pretty unique niche market in there. So they will all be fighting for a completely different segment of users than we are. So I'm not too worried about that, no.
Any more questions? No? Okay, thank you so much for the great presentation.
Thank you.